like that. That. Claire adds exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt to her bowl. And then she starts working the mixture into a round ball of sticky dough. In sugar, bread works like
So we will stop here. So read this one and then the next one.
I don't think bread works like that, Claire said. Again. I don't think bread works like that. I don't think bread works like that, Claire says.
Very good. So I don't think works. I don't think bread works like that, Claire says. So Claire is saying that she doesn't think that what Mimi's doing is right. That it won't work. The bread will not work best. It won't taste the best. It won't be the best. With the way that she's using the bread. Okay, and then read the next one right here.
Claire adds exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt to her bowl. And then she starts working the mixture into a round ball of sticky dough. Yes. Claire adds exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt to her bowl, and then she starts working the mixture into a round ball of sticky dough. One teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then she starts in the mixture into a round ball of sticky dough. Claire adds exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt bowl, and then she starts rolling the mixture with a round ball of sticky dough.
Excellent. So yeah, so Claire adds exactly 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt to her bowl. And then she starts working the mixture and into a round ball of sticky dough. So again, Claire is becoming she's been this whole time. She's strictly, right? Strictly means very firmly following the uh, her grandma's recipe, right? And she's making sure she measures exactly how much of each thing. So yeah.
well, this is how my bread works. Mimi says, still struggling with the mess in her bowl. It's supposed to be dry and gloppy, like this. And then it all comes together perfectly in the end.
Next week. Well, this is how my bread works. Mimi says, still struggling with the mess in her bowl. It's supposed to be dry and gloppy like this, and then it all comes together perfectly in the end. Yes, sweet. How my bread works. Mimi says, still struggling with the mess in her bowl. It's supposed to be dry and floppy like this, and then it all comes together perfectly there. Yes, read. The best is how my bread
Okay, very good. It says, well, this is how my bread works, Mimi says, still struggling with the mess in her bowl. It's supposed to be dry and gloppy like this, and then it all comes together perfectly in the end. So that's what Mimi says. It looks like Mimi is coping because her bread is not good at all. So yeah. I'm not sure what Mimi is thinking here. I mean, she's trying to obviously she knows that it's the bread her bread is not gonna be as good as Claire's because Claire is following her grandmother's recipe. But Mimi thinks she knows better. So but that's
Whatever you say, Mimi.
okay, so we can just have the students just talk.
Whatever you say, me. Whatever you say.
Okay, so it's just one line. Right, okay, go next one.
Claire shapes her dough into a perfect ball, then coats it with olive oil. Just and sets it by the window. It's not going to bake by the window, Claire. The sun isn't hot enough. Mimi points out to her sister in her best grown up voice. Ladies,
That's an ad. But alright, I'm gonna play so I played two text prompts. So we're gonna go back here and we're gonna go back right here. So I want if it's possible, the idea is that I want the students to try and listen and then talk. So teacher, if you I mean you're doing a great job of saying each prompt, but I want to try and test just the students just off of listening if they can correctly pronounce every word. And then we can help correct them if they say something wrong. So if the students could just read this right here. Okay, and sets it by the window. Very good. So yeah, so Claire shapes her dough into a perfect ball, then coats it with olive oil, just like the recipe says. She places a kitchen towel over her bowl and sets it by the window.
Claire shapes her dough into Claire. The sun isn't hot enough.
Go back
Window
right there.
over her bowl and sets it by the window. It's not going to bake by the window, Claire. The sun isn't hot enough. Mimi points out to her sister in her best grown up voice.
Not going to bake. No, it's not going to bake by the window. Where? The sun isn't hot enough. Mimi points out to her sister in her best grown up voice. It's not so they by the window there
Okay, yes, very good. So it's not going to bake by the window, Claire. The sun isn't hot enough. Mimi points out to her sister in her best grown-up voice. So Mimi thinks she knows better than Claire, even though Claire is following her grandmother's recipe.
I'm not baking it yet. The recipe says you have to wait half an hour. Claire answers. Grandma says the yeast needs time to make the dough rise. It's supposed to double in size before you bake it.
But now read.
Voice. Can start. I am not baking it yet. The recipe says have to wait half an hour. Claire answers. Grandma says the yeast needs time to make the dough rise. It's supposed to double the size before you bake it. I don't know if baking here yet, and the recipe explains you have explained how much. Half an hour. Half an hour. Grandma says the yeast needs time to make the dough rise. It's supposed to double its size before you bake it.
Okay, good. So it says, I'm not baking it yet. The recipe says you have to wait half an hour, Claire answers. Grandma says the yeast needs time to make the dough rise. It's supposed to double in size before you bake it. Right, so Claire is listening to her grandmother's recipe, and she's supposed to keep it out for half an hour to make sure that the dough rises. So when it cooks, it will cook well. And like not just well, but it'll be big enough for their family to eat.
It's supposed to double those perfect just like it is, Mimi declares.
My nose perfect like it is. Mini declares. My nose is my nose like it is.
Okay, very good. So Mimi is saying that she doesn't need to listen to Claire's grandma, right? She thinks her dough is fine at the way it is.
The ingredients in her bowl are barely clinging together, but Mimi plops them onto a baking tray, and into the oven they go. She turns around and smiles at Claire, quite satisfied with her effort.
The ingredients in her bowl are barely clinging together, but Mimi plops them into a baking tray and into the oven they go. She turns around and smiles at Claire, quite satisfied with her efforts. Read. Ingredients. barely clinging together, but between was them birthday cake and but she turns around and smiles at pair, quite satisfied with her efforts. Again.
Yeah, very good. So the ingredients in our bowl are barely clinging together, but Mimi pops them onto a baking tray. And into the oven they go. She turns around and smiles at Claire, quite satisfied with her efforts. So Mimi thinks that she did a good job with her bread, but we'll see what happens.
For me, none of that looked right to me, Claire says.
We'll see. None of that looked right to me, Claire says. We'll see. Yes, again.
Yes, very good. So we'll see. Mimi, none of that looks right to me, Claire says.
An hour later, the sisters compare their loaves of bread. Claire's dough has risen beautifully in the oven and has gained a fine and golden crust.
So read.
An hour later, the sisters compare their loaves of bread. Claire's dough has risen beautifully in the oven and has gained a fine and golden crust. Yes. An hour late. Compare their loaves of bread. Claire's dough has risen beautifully in the oven and has gained a fine and golden crust.
Good. So it's an hour later, so not just an hour late, hour later, the sisters compare their loaves of bread. Claire's dough has not risen but risen. It has risen beautifully in the oven and has gained a fine and golden crust. Okay, so basically Claire's dough is basically perfect as she listened to her grandma's orders.
Fine and
And unfortunately, I don't think actually we can get one more.
dough, on the
Right
other
here.
hand, has turned into something dense and hard. Her bread looks like a short, sand-colored brick. A short, sand-colored brick.
Dough, on the other hand, has turned into something dense and hard. Her bread looks like a short, sand-colored brick.
So yeah, so Mimi's dough on the other hand has turned into something dense and hard. Her bread looks like a short sand-colored brick. So basically, Claire's one turned out great and Mimi's one turned out horrible. So unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. It was a great class. Thank you for participating, everyone. We couldn't get to the questions, but hopefully we can get to it next time. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you teachers for putting this together and reading. Thank you. So I will see everyone next week.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Love. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.